My mother passed away 2 days ago. She was 96 years old and in a coma the last few days of her life. It's an interesting passage. I thought it would be. I remember my introduction to a different kind of psychology. It was brought to me by a man named Abraham Maslow back in 1962. I was fortunate enough to be able to study with Dr. Maslow. He really introduced me to a different way of looking at how to help people and how to improve the quality of our own lives. It was a turning point for me. One of the things he spoke about were these people that he calls self-actualizing people. If you remember Maslow's pyramid and the hierarchy, you go from your basic needs to the very top of the pyramid. The very top of the pyramid is something called self-actualization. He described self-actualizing people. One of the flaws of self-actualizing people is that they get over death almost as if it didn't happen. They have an awareness within them that nothing dies. Everything that materializes, of course, changes form, but there is something. My teacher in India was named Swami Muktananda. Many of you have read about him. He was asked the question, "What is real, Master? What is real?" Muktananda said, "That is real, which never changes. Everything else is illusion." So I've been thinking about Muktananda and Dr. Maslow, who passed away on the 7th of June, 1970. That was the same day that I was walking across the stage in Detroit at Cobo Hall receiving my PhD. It was almost the same hour. It was as if he had said to me, "I've explained this whole idea of self-actualization to the academic world. Now you explain it to the cab drivers and the school teachers and the nurses and the yoga students and everyone else." This whole idea that there is a higher place where each of us can reach right here while we're here. I've been thinking about all of this since my mom left. There are pictures of my mom all over my apartment on Maui. I have pictures of her on the wall when she was 10 years old in 1926. Another picture of her reading a poem that she wrote when she was 12 years old in 1928 about the election that year. If you remember the election that year, 1928, Smith or Hoover, who will it be? Both are running for the presidency. Smith is the thin one, Hoover's the fat. My, such an uproar, where are we at? That was my mom at 12. I had pictures of my mother at 30. I have a picture of her sitting on my lap on her 75th birthday. I look at those pictures and I say, which one of them is my mother? Was she that 10-year-old? According to Muktananda, that is real, which never changes. All of us are here in bodies that we believe are who we are. We're totally convinced of it. I was in a 21-year-old body, and I can't find any part of it anywhere on the planet. But while I was in it, I was absolutely convinced that this is who I am. Then I moved into another body, and another body, and another body. The same is true for each and every one of us here. There is some part of us that is infinite. That is the soul. There's the spirit. It makes no difference what you call it. Many of you know that I wrote a book about 7 years ago after living the Tao Te Ching for a full year. It's called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. I took each of the 81 verses of the Tao Te Ching and I took a full year. I began on January 1st, 2005. I read verse 1 and I would take 4.5 days, 4 days to contemplate it, think about it, meditate on it, try to understand it. Then, in the half day that I had, I would look at a painting of Lao Tzu from 2,500 years ago. Someone had channeled this painting and sent it to me from my radio show. I don't do any writing now without him looking at it. I just sort of gaze at this drawing that this person imagined Lao Tzu to be. It speaks to me and I would write an essay. The Tao Te Ching, as some call it, the wisest book ever written. Someone once sent me a copy of a book called Jesus and Lao Tzu. On the left-hand side of the page were all the sayings of Lao Tzu. On the right-hand side of the page were all the sayings of Jesus that mirrored what Lao Tzu had said 500 years before his birth. I'm not saying Jesus was plagiarizing, but I am saying there are eternal truths. These eternal truths came to me directly out of the Tao. I did this for each of the 81 verses of the Tao. The opening line of the Tao Te Ching says, "The Tao that can be named is not the Tao." As soon as you try to define this invisible noumenon within each and every one of us that keeps occupying these new bodies all the time while the body continues to change, who we are is infinite. So I wrote a few words about what I think of as the soul. Let me just share them with you. The ideal of the soul, this part of you that is never changing, this part of you that is infinite. That word infinite is a very important word to think about because it's the opposite of finite. Finite means something begins and ends. If it didn't end any place or didn't begin any place, we wouldn't be able to call it finite. We would say it is always continuing. The minute that it stops, the minute we have a form to it, the minute we place anything on it that is associated with this physical, corporeal world that we all live in, it moves from the infinite to the finite. So to try to define that which is infinite with a brain or a mind that is finite is an impossibility. Lao Tzu knew this and understood this. It's why meditation is such an important part of the process of coming to our highest self, coming to know who we are. It's the place where there are no beginnings. Herman Melville once said that God's one and only voice is silence. The silence, it's there. One place where there is nothing finite there. Blaise Pascal, the famous French philosopher and scientist, once said that all of man's troubles stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Most of us just aren't comfortable with this because we have come to believe and trust in the evidence for who we are is on the basis of that which we can touch and see and feel and smell, what our five senses tell us. But our five senses lie to us. William Blake pointed that out beautifully in one of his poems back in 1777. He said, "To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, to hold eternity in the palm of your hand and infinity in an hour. We are all led to believe a lie when we see with, not through, the eye which was born in a night to perish in the night while the soul slept in beams of light. We are all infinite beings in a temporary human experience." I've said it over and over again. Whenever people ask me what's my very favorite quote, my very favorite observation, it came from Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the French priest who was excommunicated from the Catholic Church for his outrageous ideas. He said that we're not here as human beings having a spiritual experience. It's the other way around. We are all infinite spiritual beings having a temporary human experience and coming to a place where we live our lives from that infinite place and beginning to know our soul. It's one of the reasons why I accepted an invitation to come here. I do yoga myself 5-6 times a week. I know the significance of it for me in my own body, in my own health, my own life, my own emotional state. I know that when I meditate, I'm better. I know that when I do yoga, I'm healed. So I came. Getting to know the soul, the spirit, and not identifying ourselves on the basis of our physical senses is the essence of my newest book, which is a PBS special called Wishes Fulfilled. The whole message behind all of it is to really come up with a specific way to come in contact with this infinite part of ourselves. Now remember, if it's infinite, it doesn't stop any place. It doesn't start any place. That's by definition infinite. So if something doesn't start and doesn't stop, what is it doing? It has to be expanding, doesn't it? The minute it stops expanding, it's finite. We're no longer talking about the soul. We're talking about what Blake said. We see with, not through, our eyes. Here's what I jotted down, the ideal of the soul. The thing that it asks for is neither knowledge, nor light, nor happiness. The ideal of the soul is space, immensity. The one thing it needs more than anything else is to be free, to expand, and to reach out and to embrace the infinite. Yet the ideal of the soul is infinity, because that's what the soul is. It is miserable when it is circumscribed or restricted in any way. Now I have 8 children, 6 beautiful daughters, and 2 sons. One of the things that I know is I used to say that before I had children, I had 8 theories about how to raise children. Now I have 8 children and no theories. One of the things I know about children is that no one likes being told what to do. This isn't just children. This is all of us. One of my favorite songs is a song from when I was back in high school. Oh, give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Boy, you know it. Don't fence me in. Don't restrict me. Don't put boundaries on me. Don't tell me what I can do and what I can't do. Don't tell me how to be. Don't tell me what to wear, what to think. Don't tell me even how to do yoga. Don't tell me I don't want to be told. This is the soul speaking always. The soul is constantly having a desire to expand and grow.